Gauteng Emergency Services have slammed the attack on a patient who was being treated inside an ambulance when they were killed, stoned in fact, by a mob while receiving treatment from EMS personnel. The incident has been condemned by authorities across the board. Let's talk about the situation with Gauteng EMS Director Reuben Ruiters. A very good afternoon to you, sir. Grateful for your time today. Just how shaken are you as a service by what's happened?
It's very sad. It is very sad to think that we every day we wake up coming to serve our community, but then this happens. We went out to go and save a life, but our lives was nearly taken. Our members' lives was nearly taken during this incident. It's really sad.
And what are you able to tell us, Reuben, about what happened during this attack?
Well, the crews just left the office because they came for counseling. Because it's part of the wellness program. They just left our offices with our doctors here. So they've reported that we know that a call was registered for an assault in Attersville. And as Attersville has been classified as one of the hotspots because of the attacks previously, so we always required to be escorted by the South African Police Service. So on the day, the police escorted the ambulance. We arrived on scene, and the crew started to initiate treatment on a patient that was badly hurt, thrown with rocks and stabbed. And as they just loaded the patient in the ambulance, preparing to leave for the hospital, they managed to start driving off, and then the community started now to accuse the late person of some crime that we don't know that he committed in the community, and that he doesn't deserve to live. And that's when the stoning and the attack started.
As I understand it, Reuben, from what we heard overnight was that this man had, as you were saying, been accused of involvement in crime, and the community had basically taken the law into its own hands, assaulted him, and that's when your teams were dispatched to go then and try to ferry him to hospital, but they got caught in the crossfire, and he was then killed inside your vehicle.
Yeah, that is the sad part. As we arrived there, he was assaulted already, lying there on the ground. The crew started, like I said, treatment, and they treated him and loaded him, going to the hospital, and the assault and the attack started vigorously, and the ambulance, as we speak, is damaged, is full of blood. Our crews had to flee the scene. Some crew members jumped into the police vehicles that drove off with the crew members, and the other crew member drove the ambulance trying to get away from the scene, but drove into like a dead spot where, as you'll know, that the informal settlements don't have street names, so you don't know at night where you're driving to. It is normally one way in, one way out. So the guys drove, and it was a dead end, and the crews the public were coming, the mob justice were coming, throwing stones, shouting that he needs to die. And our crew member also flee the scene, running towards the police. And when the police reconvened and went back to the ambulance, we found that the guy is still dead, lifeless, lying there in the ambulance, which is very, very sad, and it's just blood all over the place. And obviously they stole also some of the equipment that was in the ambulance as part of this mob justice. So this is a very, very sad happening.
So you mentioned the police, Reuben. Where were they when the ambulance came under attack? Because I'm curious about the SOP, standard operating procedure or processes, when you're called out to an area, for instance, where A, it is unsafe for various factors, or B, the person who you are supposed to treat has been attacked by a mob, accusing them of involvement in crime, which then already suggests that it's an inflamed situation.
Correct. Yeah, as we went in, the police were with us. In fact, we didn't even approach the scene without the police. We approached the scene after the police said, it's safe, you can come. And as the crews arrived there were already members of the public around the patient lying on the ground. So the police were already on scene with us, giving us the confidence that everything's under control. And hence our members started to treat the patient and initiated, and everything was okay so far. The problem started when our crews started to load the patient in an ambulance. That's when the shouting started to happen, and the violent behavior from the community, making allegations that the person deserves to die or must die because he's been involved in some crime. At that moment, police were there with us. And when they started to throw the ambulance with the rocks and stones, and it became violent now, one of the paramedics sitting with the patient nearly got hit by one of the rocks, and hence she decided to jump out of the vehicle and ran towards the police vehicle, of which they took the lady and drove off with her to a safe environment. And our driver also attempted to drive away with the patient still on board,
right.
and these members trying to gain access to the ambulance. But because it was a dead end, he's just trying to get away. He also decided, so my life is also in danger. I'm going to run away for my life as well. And of which he did. And the police then, after some time, more backup police arrived on scene and they approached the ambulance. And by the time that happened, the patient's life was taken, lying there in the ambulance that was supposed to have transported him to the hospital to save a life. But it was unfortunate that this happened.
So it sounds to me as though police were outnumbered. I don't know if you know how many officers were on scene with your team at the time and where they were when a mob was able to basically reach inside or throw rocks into an ambulance where a sick person was being treated or about to be moved.
Yeah, no, that's what also we think that the police was probably outnumbered because it was a lot of people, and maybe they also retreated from the scene because they wanted to take our member out of to a place of safety. So all that thinking, obviously, the police will be able to give more clarity as to the reasons why they pulled out and not engage as one would have normally expect that they must engage. So, but it happened. That we are just grateful that our members are still alive and they are unharmed.
And we are grateful that the members of your team are safe, though traumatized, as you were saying after your conversation with them today. How much of Gauteng is a no-go area for Joburg emergency services or Gauteng emergency services without police protection? Where do you feel most unsafe as emergency workers?
Generally, our informal settlements are very unsafe in all districts, in all metros. All districts, we have been robbed at gunpoint. Our belongings has been taken. In Western, just about a week ago, an ambulance was shot at. Also going to a case in Western area. You'll recall also in Boksburg where the two cops were also shot dead on scene with us during a where we're treating patients, and now this also happens. So generally in the province, at night we see there's a spike in these attacks, especially in the informal settlements, where we don't have a clear visibility of who's approaching you from which direction. So it's all over the province. It's not specific to a particular area. I mean, your El Dorado Park, we've had incidents where our guys has been attacked and robbed at gunpoint, at knife point, and our members, just continue to serve, because of we've taken an oath. But this happens, it happens, and we don't know when will this ever stop. And we also have the belief that as much as the police are trying their best, we believe that the National Prosecuting Authority must also, start to review this crime against health workers, as a serious crime against humanity, because it's a violation of the Constitution. People are being refused care of medical care. So, and we are now, unfortunately, the ones that are not trained to protect ourselves. We are trained to treat patients and to save lives.
And Reuben, just on that, the issue of police escorts, I'm curious about how those ratios work and whether actually there's always a police team available as and when you need to be escorted into a dangerous area.
Yes, as we go in, we have good working relations with the police. We normally report at the nearest police station, either via our communication center or even the ambulance, and then the police will always divert the vehicle to escort us to those incidents. And this incident that we require escort on are not generally all incidents. It's basically incidents where there's violence involved. If there's a medical case, somebody is being sick, even in the informal settlement, we don't have these attacks. Only where there is violence involved, that's where we require police, and that's where we are being prone for these attacks, and that's where they normally escort us.
Gauteng Emergency Services Director Reuben Ruiters, thank you for your time, sir.